Okay, Chair, I can confirm that we're now live streaming to the public and recording. Over to you.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Overview Committee on the 18th of November 2021. I would like to welcome viewers of our live stream on YouTube. I am your chair for the meeting, Councillor Vicky Johns. Could I remind everyone that due to concerns relating to COVID risk, our council has delegated much of its decision making to senior officers for the period up until the 17th of January 2022. Consequently, this evening will be a consultative meeting only. However, we will work as closely as possible to normal procedural rules as detailed in our constitution. Where our meeting would normally have decided a matter, it will now make recommendations to a senior officer. That officer will then take our recommendation into account when making their decisions. May I remind colleagues that the Code of Conduct applies throughout this meeting. We reserve the right to disconnect any disruptive participant. If there is a break in internet connection or a power cut, please bear with us as we try to reconnect. Should we not be successful within 15 minutes, we will consider the meeting adjourned and reconvene at a later date. As this is a large meeting, it is particularly important to colleagues to ensure microphones are muted when not in use to avoid disturbance from background noise. If you wish to speak, raise your yellow electronic hand and wait to be called. Please keep points short and do not interrupt while others are speaking. Our agenda is available online at www.eastdevon.gov.uk. I will start by welcoming Councillor Jake Bonetta as Vice Chair for this committee, following the resignation of Councillor Fabian King. Councillor Bonetta was appointed as Vice Chair at the last Council meeting on the 20th of October. We will now start the meeting by doing a roll call of all members here present. Can you please now unmute your microphone, and when you hear your name, please confirm by saying present. When you have confirmed you're present, please mute your microphone again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Johns.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Bonetta.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Barrow.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Gazzard.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Hartnell. Sure, I saw Councillor Hartnell. Come back to him.
He's on mute.
Oh, Councillor Hartnell. Councillor Ingham.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Yeah. Councillor Manley. Councillor Miller. Okay, I'll come back. Councillor Moulding.
Present.
Councillor Pook.
Present.
Councillor Woodward.
Present.
Okay, can I just go back and check Councillor Hartnell? Could you unmute yourself, Councillor Hartnell?
Present, Sue. So I'm having trouble connecting.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me, Sue?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can, Councillor Hartnell.
Sorry, it's a really poor connection, but I am present.
Councillor Miller, have we got Councillor Miller yet? No. Okay. Okay, thank you, Chair. That's it for now.
It's Val Ranger, sorry, I think I am here.
Thank you, Councillor Ranger. Okay, over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. I can confirm that the meeting is now quorate. Excellent. Okay, agenda item 1, public speaking. There are no members of the public wishing to speak tonight, but a member of the public has emailed Councillor Miller with a brief statement which they would like read out to the meeting in relation to agenda item 9.3. Sue, will you read the statement, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. This was sent on the 15th of November. Dear Councillor Miller, I am emailing you to commend you for your submission to the Overview Committee of the proposal for the creation of a publicly accessible register of senior council officers' interests. It is my belief that in the interests of public confidence, transparency, accountability and scrutiny, that your proposal should be adopted on the 18th of November 2021 with immediate effect. Senior officers daily have access and responsibility for the usage and allocation of public finances within East Devon, running to tens of millions of pounds. Your report highlights the £20 million commercial fund. I would add the potential officer oversight of the proposed £40 million Cranbrook Infrastructure Loan Scheme, acknowledged by officers as a high-risk scheme. As with the Code of Practice governing councillors' conduct, it is important that the public should have complete confidence in the independence and impartiality of senior officers' conduct whilst undertaking their duties on behalf of the community. My comments are not intended to imply any past irregularity of conduct, but are made to ensure that any future suggestion of malfeasance can be expeditiously scrutinised and, where appropriate, quickly dismissed. Yours sincerely, Paul Smith. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, there are no other public speakers wishing to speak. Agenda item 2. Minutes of the previous overview committee meeting held on the 16th of September 2021. Members will recall that the meeting on the 16th of September was a joint meeting with the Scrutiny Committee to consider the draft council plan, but we need to agree the minutes separately as 2 committees. So if you have any comments on these minutes, please raise your electronic hand. I can't see any hands. Sue, can you see any hands?
No, I can't see any hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Can I now invite Overview Committee to vote in favour or against noting and accepting the minutes? So in favour with your green tick, please.
Okay, Chair, I have 9 votes in favour and 1 abstention. I can see a raised hand. I'm assuming that's an abstention.
Yes, that is Sue. Thank you.
I'm assuming that's because you weren't at the meeting, Jake.
That is because at the time I was not a member. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I confirm that these are noted and accepted as a true record by members of the Overview Committee. Agenda item 3, apologies. I have so far received apologies from Councillor Ian Hall. Have any other apologies been given, Sue?
No, Chair, I haven't received any others. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Bonetti, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Miller, who is going to be late to this meeting, unfortunately. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Agenda item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? If during the meeting you wish to make a declaration, please remember to say which agenda item it refers to, then state your declaration and if it is a personal or prejudicial declaration and what exactly the interest is. Does anybody have any interest that they wish to declare? If you raise your hand, please. I can't see any. Sue, can you?
No, I can't see any raised hands, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, matters of urgency. There are no matters to be dealt with urgently, as far as I'm aware. Agenda item 7, report on East Devon digital connectivity. The report in your agenda provides an update on external broadband delivery projects that East Devon District Council are aware of, but not in control of. We have opportunities to influence through responding quickly and positively to inquiries, meeting requests and marketing support to encourage the take-up. The report also contains a recommendation that members note the contents of this report, but since it is simply to ensure members remain informed about current and planned improvements to digital connectivity in East Devon, I will shortly invite comments from members and take a vote afterwards to ensure that you are happy to accept the update and thank officers accordingly. But before that, I will invite Jerry Pantiva to guide us through her report in summary. I'm assuming that Jerry is here, Sue.
Yes, she is. She was a little while
Yes.
ago. Yep.
Excellent.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Jerry, over to you.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. I thank you for the introduction. And yes, I have prepared a summary of the report for those who have not a chance to go through it in detail. So just briefly go through it in less than 10 minutes, just to highlight the key points. And then, of course, we'll have some time for questions as well. So thank you for your time. So in summary, the purpose of the report is to inform councillors and the wider community of the latest developments in digital connectivity in East Devon. The current pandemic has highlighted more than ever the importance of fast and reliable connection. As we now work mostly from home, a lot of services are delivered digitally. Government is doing its digital by default program, so it is of extreme importance, hence the purpose of this report. We all know that obviously East Devon is predominantly a rural environment, so this does bring some challenges to the delivery of these programs and connectivity. But I'm pleased to say that as the report highlights, we are seeing actually very high levels of investment in digital infrastructure and connectivity, both by the public sector, publicly funded programs, and also by the private sector. I'll quickly go through the current government policy in terms of digital connectivity. Building Digital UK is responsible for ensuring that every UK home and business can access fast and reliable digital connections. And currently there is a shift towards a gigabit capability of 1,000 megabits per second. The target that the government has set up is that a minimum of 85% gigabit capable coverage will be established by 2025. And in order to achieve that, they're investing through a 5 billion program called Project Gigabit, and as well as a hard to reach areas program, which will support the leveling up agenda as well. The report goes through the Connecting Devon and Somerset update. I trust everyone is familiar with the CDS program, and the report provided a brief overview of how the program was set up in 2013 and how it has progressed. I will just highlight that initially the service was delivered through BT, followed by a contract with GigaClear, and since the end of 2020 by a new contractor called Airband. The superfast coverage in East Devon at the time of the new contract at the end of last year was 88.5%. And by the end of the contract, it is estimated that it will reach over 97%. Currently, a band contract will cover over 6,000 homes and businesses, and they will receive full fiber connection by the end of the contract, which is in about 3 years in September 2024. Since the beginning of the year, a lot of progress has been made, predominantly in planning, surveying the areas that are going to be covered, and so on. And now they're in the phase of delivery. The work starts depending on the most economical and effective way to deliver this infrastructure. And there is a very helpful map and information about the timeline when different clusters are going to be connected, and it's published in table 3.17 in the digital connectivity report. The community engagement program is going really well, and there are a number of meetings to inform community and businesses of progress and opportunities, and this again is widely available. In terms of private investment, Jurassic Fiber is a company that has been founded in 2018 and is already significantly investing in digital infrastructure in East Devon and all in different areas within Devon, Dorset and Somerset. They're already live in areas like Exmouth and Honiton, and expanding on the southern coast towards the Dorset border. Announcements have been made for further connections in Sidmouth, Salcombe Regis and Branscombe area. They're connecting at significant speed with around 10,000 premises being connected per month. This covers both areas of Devon, Dorset and Somerset. I would also just like to highlight a case study to showcase these capabilities. And you might be familiar with a new development, Winslade Park near Cleese St. Mary, which is commercial, residential, office space, and new investment in new way of living, with also leisure opportunities and quite sustainable and green infrastructure. So in March this year, Jurassic Fibre were able to connect the park to 10 gigabit per second connection, which is fascinating speed. And now over 2,000 employees working currently on site are benefiting from this infrastructure. It's also future-proof, and new buildings are being installed with this connection capability as the site expands. The connectivity also covers the whole estate, so all the grounds, so there is opportunity for outdoor meetings and so on. Next, I will just briefly present another case study about a technological solution in rural areas that currently do not benefit by broadband connectivity and not on any plans for fiber connection. Local East Devon business called Core Communication took part in a trial earlier this year, and they tested the Starlink satellite, which is a satellite connection which was launched by Elon Musk, and it was available in UK in early 2021. It is high-speed broadband service delivered via satellite orbiting the Earth, and the signal is received by a satellite dish. The experience of the company who tried it is really positive, and their opinion is at the cost of around £90 per month to similar speeds provided by local providers. It's comparable, and it's fast, reliable, and it's a very positive experience. So the case study was included in the report just to highlight that there are opportunities for businesses to access high speeds, even if they don't have broadband infrastructure delivered to their premises. The report also touches upon mobile connectivity, only briefly, because this is investment that is predominantly by private sector. It's commercially viable and progressing well. We are aware how important mobile internet is, as many people and businesses use it all the time. There is some support available for those areas that have poor indoor mobile coverage. Currently, there is a scheme delivered through the Connecting Devon and Somerset program called the Mobile Boost Scheme, when there is opportunity to upgrade to 4G coverage, and households and businesses can apply for vouchers up to £1,200 for mobile signal booster. This covers the main content of the report. Just in summary and as a conclusion, I want to highlight how important digital connectivity, reliable and fast, is for enabling economic growth and productivity. COVID-19 pandemic has further underlined this importance. We are all well aware how essential it is for any job or schooling and so on. And it is an opportunity to break barriers like isolation, social mobility, poverty, and so on. A study earlier this year in January 2021 by Citizens Advice highlighted that 1 in 6 people in the UK currently struggle to afford broadband, which is obviously quite a staggering number. That's why East Devon District Council anti-poverty strategy currently highlights digital exclusion as one of the key issues. It looks at how this is impacts on access to jobs, to opportunities, to social mobility, and so on. Alongside investment in infrastructure, obviously it's very important to invest in digital skills and the demand for this infrastructure. So one of the roles we have as a council, and one of the ways we can encourage take up and facilitate better digital connectivity, is to ensuring that we have really good engagement, promotion of the available opportunities, supporting businesses with their digital skills needs. For example, our service Growth, Development and Prosperity has invested heavily in different business support opportunities through the years, most recently into the Adapt and Thrive program, which had a strong digital skills element attached to it, and a number of businesses benefited from it. So in summary, while we have limited scope to influence delivery and we are not directly delivering these opportunities in our district, we can of course support through working collaboratively with the partners that are delivering this infrastructure and connectivity. We also need to ensure that the digital connectivity is included and very high on the agenda in any policy decisions we are making, in any frameworks we are putting in place, and also support community engagement of any of the programs currently happening now and in the future, and just ensuring that we have good working relationship with anyone that can influence delivery in our district. So that was a brief overview of the report, and I just welcome any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry, much appreciated, and thank you for bearing with us and having to come to another meeting of overview. Can I now invite members to raise their electronic hands if they wish to comment on the report? Do we have any comments or questions? I see Councillor Woodward's hand up.
Thank you. Just a
if you would like to go with your
question, but in the report it refers to, and I think you just mentioned in the case study of Winsley Park, it says that the business park, which currently hosts around 2,500 workers, I think, isn't it meant to be that it has the capacity to host that number, but there's probably only about 10%, if that, at the moment. Do you know what the numbers are currently?
Sure, thank you for your question. This number was actually accurate at the time of putting the report together. Obviously, with the current restrictions and people being mindful of the impact of the pandemic, we don't have numbers of how many people actually work there, but I'm aware that a lot of them actually do occupy the premises. There are a number of businesses that have already established themselves in the numerous buildings and office space. So it is for current numbers, but in reality, how many people actually attend every day, obviously we don't have that oversight at present.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question fully, Councillor Woodward?
Yes, that's fine, thank you. Just checking.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or queries on this report? I can't see any other hands up. Anybody waving frantically at you, Sue?
Councillor Pook, I think, would like to say something.
Councillor Pook, please.
Thank you, and thanks for your report, Jerry. But and maybe I'm a bit of a dinosaur, but I just always get confused by all this, because we've had in the parish council had presentations from Jurassic Fibre and another company which I've forgotten, but every time they seem to be just replicating the sort of like the motorways, the main routes between boxes. And as soon as you start asking about, well, how can we get the connectivity to houses, unless it's a really convenient for them, they say, well, no, we can't do that. And a bit selfishly speaking, because that's the answer I got. So can you just explain technically what Jurassic Fibre will be doing, and the CDS one to CDS, isn't it? What they put in, and whether they, who pays for the bit to get from their motorway, their 1,000 megabyte motorway, up to our little houses, which are going at about sort of 10 megabytes.
Yeah, sure. Well, it is quite a complex matter, and it is quite obviously expensive to deliver this infrastructure. So first, I want to make the distinction between, as you mentioned, the public investment and the private investment. So As a general rule, obviously public investment, the funding comes directly from the government to BD UK, Building Digital UK. It is it is meant to reach areas that are quite hard to reach, to reach these communities and settlements where it's not commercially viable. And that's why, for example, normally bigger cities, larger towns are excluded from this type of programs because just there is enough competition, enough motivation for commercial operators to deliver this infrastructure. So they're investing in these areas that are very hard to reach and are not that profitable for commercial operators to deliver. While while private companies like Jurassic Fibre, who are entirely privately funded, obviously for them commercial success is very important. While they might have programs in place to support certain areas, or their corporate social responsibility might enable them to deliver projects or areas that are not that profitable for them. Ultimately, obviously, they are guided by where the customers are and what would be a successful project for them. So they're investing in these areas. But with current coverage and then coverage that is expected to be fulfilled by the end of the current CDS program, which is September 2024, we'll have over 97% coverage of super fast and gigabit capable infrastructure, which is really, really significant and above average for the country. So overall, when I was talking to different partners delivering this infrastructure, they did highlight that the East Devon is actually in quite a good position in terms of its current connectivity and future plans. So we are well ahead of other areas. That's why sometimes when you look at plans, especially for the publicly funded programs, it might seem that perhaps other areas are prioritized, but they are prioritized because their infrastructure is not in such a good condition as where we currently are.
Councillor Pook, you're on mute. Councillor Pook, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I thought I managed to do most things, but I pressed my hand up. Can't multitask. So when we say 90, or when you say 95% coverage, we're saying 95% coverage to the distribution boxes, and so it's still we aren't actually getting 90% coverage of houses or businesses.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, but no program, and that's clearly stated in any program, that while they always aim to deliver or aim to reach 100%, obviously there are obstacles there, and there are areas that unfortunately won't be covered. Obviously, I'm not a digital expert myself. I'm economic development officer, but we do welcome any follow-up questions, or if you have any specific concern or any information that you'd like to find out. That's part of our job, liaising with our partners, making this clear, answering any questions or any concerns. So we can always facilitate a meeting, an update directly from the delivery partners that will have most accurate and most up-to-date information. But we just have to be realistic. There would always be somebody, unfortunately, that might not benefit from all the opportunities around them. That's why the report aimed to highlight different options of connectivity to showcase what is being done and what can be achieved. And hopefully, as time progresses and as more investment is being made available, for example, Devon would benefit from the project gigabit investment in the third tranche of the program, which is expected to be in January 2023, but this is also expected to be brought forward. So it is a constantly changing landscape. There is definitely a movement in a positive direction. So I'm confident some of these areas would be covered sooner than expected. And obviously partners are sometimes hesitant to give concrete information just because there might be some obstacles on the way that they have not thought about. And rather than obviously overpromise and underdeliver, they would prefer to release information to the public when it's really clear that certain areas would be connected.
Yeah, but what the point I was trying to make was that when the 95% doesn't mean that 95% of the potential users actually have it. it's 95% of the area has got it to the connection boxes, and it is quite a big cost for most people to actually get the new speeds, because they're over the old copper lines. They've got to do different things. So I think it's just that 95% is a bit of a sort of confusing. It suggests a much better coverage of people than it's actually providing.
I believe it's over 97. It is expected by the end of 2024. But yeah, I appreciate that there would be some areas or households that would miss on some opportunities.
Okay, I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it was Councillor Rylance next, was it, Sue?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. So actually my question is kind of along the same lines of what Councillor Poot was just saying, so I do apologise, but I'm aware of places within my ward that are essentially entirely not spots, so they have neither broadband nor good 4G access. And I wonder if you are aware of any national digital strategies that are coming forwards that might actually start tackling not spots. I mean, I'm sure that my ward can't be the only place in East Devon, and I'm certain it's not the only place in Britain where this is happening, where people who live there are essentially being increasingly stranded from the 21st century at a time where, as you rightly pointed out, people need access to the internet. Well, we never needed it more than we have in the last 20 months, and that's not going to go away. So we need to keep pushing for not spots to end up being covered in some form, whether it's by fibre, whether it's fibre to the cabinet, whether it's through 4G captors. It's crucial that people end up connected to the 21st century. So are you aware of any strategy that's coming through to actually tackle those remaining, whatever the ever-changing percentages of people who won't be covered by so-called rollout of fast broadband?
Sure. Well, thank you for the question. Very good point. Yeah, actually, in March this year, there was a consultation for the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport about very hard to reach premises. So I believe there is definitely some follow-up action from this consultation, but the feedback that was provided obviously highlighted that there should be further investment from the wider public sector and the government in digital connectivity in rural areas that see these issues. And there are obviously areas that are at risk of being left behind, but with a mix of different contractual delivery and some different solutions, some of which I mentioned earlier. Hopefully, some of these challenges would be tackled. But the fact that there was this consultation, I would expect there would be some programs following up from it. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Rylance?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any other hands up? Anybody else wish to ask a question?
Aren't there any other raised hands, Chair?
No, me either. Can I now invite members to confirm their support in accepting this update report by a vote? Green ticks if you are in favour and a red cross if you are not.
Okay, Chair, I have 11 votes in favour. No abstentions, none against.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jerry. And thank you very much for your report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Agenda item 8, the public toilets review. Following discussions earlier this week, it was agreed to defer this item to an additional and extraordinary meeting scheduled for next week, Thursday, the 25th of November at 6 o'clock. In order to give elected members and members of the public more time to read the report and the accompanying papers before the debate. Accordingly, I'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 9, the forward plan. We have received 3 proposal forms from Councillor Paul Miller to be considered by the Overview Committee for inclusion on a future agenda. On each item, the monitoring officer has included his comments. As such, the items are not for debate tonight, but for you to consider and decide whether further information is required by way of a scoping exercise by the officers so that they can come to a future meeting to be debated. For each item, I will invite Councillor Miller to say a few introductory words to start with, before inviting brief comments from other members. I am aware that Councillor Ledger has something else that he would also like to ask. Do you wish to do that at the moment, Councillor Ledger, or are you happy to wait until the end of this?
Happy to wait.
Okay, no problem, thank you. So, Paul, do you wish to speak on these before I read them out?
I do. I wait with bated breath to hear what Councillor Ledger would like to say, but what I'd like to say firstly is I feel the current policy is a mess and unclear. It is not obvious for councillors what the policy on SIL Section 106 is. In my view, East Devon District Council ward members need to be at the front and centre of consultation on SIL Section 106 receipts, particularly the 85%, well, specifically the 85% of SIL receipts that we are responsible for distributing. I'd like to give a local issue, which is Thomas Close, which is a play park in the heart of my ward. I was unaware that there was money that was available to and had been agreed to improve that play park since being a councillor in 2019. I understand that Councillor Chapman, my colleague, is unaware of play parks and other facilities in her ward which have been offered funding similarly. And she and Councillor Chapman has been campaigning and lobbying on this issue for a long time, and I very much respect her for doing so. My point is that we do need to review this. In my view, East Devon District councillors need to be aware of SIL and Section 106 funding within our wards. It is actually our responsibility. There's also the current policy or procedure that exists on Section 106 funding, which we devolve down to town and parish councils, which is our choice for doing so, but I do think that needs to be reviewed as well for reasons I set out in the report. So I would like us at least to agree, because we're not agreeing anything else apart from allowing this issue to be further scoped. And I think it would be for overview after that to decide how we then reform the system. I personally think it is due. It's due reform. So I'd like to invite any other members with comments on that. And I look forward to what Councillor Ledger has to say on this. But, you know, I think from a backbencher, as a member, not member of the cabinet, somebody that supports my ward, you know, I think it's in the interest of all councillors, regardless of party, to be empowered to have involvement in this area. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. So as you're aware, item 1, as Councillor Miller has just said, is the SIL/Section 106 participatory. I've got a cold, so I do apologise. Budgeting policy. As you will see, the view of the monitoring officer is that it is open for the committee to consider a policy approach on this issue. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Miller on this? I can't see any hands up. Can you, Sue? Okay,
no, I can't. No, I can't see any raised hands, Chair.
Thank you. So can I now invite members to raise their electronic hands if they... Oh, Councillor, you're preempting what I'm saying. Now, come on, play the game. So can I now invite members to raise their electronic hands if they wish to comment briefly on this item? Please remember this meeting is not the occasion for debating the item. So have you got any comments on this item?
I've got sorry, Chair, I've got a raised hand from Councillor Gazzard, I think, Councillor Pook and Councillor Chapman, as well as Councillor Ledger.
Okay. I think Councillor Pooks was up first.
Yeah. Yes, then Councillor Chapman.
Thank you.
Then Councillor Ledger.
Okay, my feeling on this is that, and I've been involved in SIL and 106 to a certain extent. I don't think we need to be debating policy on it at the moment. Perhaps the council could do with an evening of explanation or some information, so everyone knows how it works. Because my information is that, or my experience is that, you know, when we've needed to use it, it's worked relatively well. It's a bit cumbersome at times, and therefore there could be some streamlining. But perhaps rather than start going straight into legislation and changing policy, etc., like that, perhaps we should have an information evening to actually, so everyone is informed of what is available and how it works.
Thank you, Councillor Pook. Councillor, I will come back to you later, Councillor Miller. Councillor Chapman, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's taken 7 years to get a park in my area for the children done. So 106 has been on my agenda for about 12 years now. And it's problem after problem. What I would like overview to look at is the criteria for what work is done, and how the officers choose and what criteria they are using, because I am now being informed that money is being put forward to a play park, which I welcome, which is very good, but I actually have another park which is for little kiddies, which half the park is covered in brambles and nettles. And I would rather have had that cleared for the youngsters before more money was spent on equipment. So criteria for 106 money needs to be looked at, and what are the officers actually using as a benchmark. So if I could put that forward, Chair, that would help greatly. It has been a complete mess over the years because it was not computerized. So trying to find out where money was going and where it came from and where it was needed, it has always been a problem, and it needs to be looked at. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Chapman. Councillor Miller, I am aware that your hand is up, but if you don't mind if I go to Councillor Gazzard first and then come back to you so you can answer any of the questions and queries. Thank you, Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you, Chair. Like you, I've got a cold as well. I don't see any problems with the system as it works at the moment. I hear what Councillor Chapman and Councillor Miller have to say. I mean, I think what Councillor Pook has said is a good idea, is that we should be looking at a discussion with the officers. And as Exmouth has been mentioned, the S106 working party in Exmouth meets regularly with the officers from East Devon. And we have a robust system that we go through when we go out for doing updating play parks. So, I mean, I think if we're going to look at the system, we need to include the officers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. Councillor Bonetta, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. Just a very, very quick point that I wanted to raise following the comments that I've heard. I must say I'm leaning towards Councillor Miller on this in needing to have a bit of a review on how it works. I noticed that Councillor Gazzard mentioned an S106 working party, and that many town and parish councils actually do have an active say and an active role in that. What I would say on that point is that is not universal across town and parish councils. Honiston Town Council, for example, of which I'm a member, obviously that's a bit of a personal interest there. We don't have a Section 106 working party. In fact, I can't remember the last time we discussed Section 106 agreements, even though it is meant to come down to us. So therefore, I actually do think that the district does need a bigger say in it. I think the district ward councillors are in a good position to help out with that. I do hear what all the councillors here say. However, I do think at the very least we do need to look into other alternatives and how we can run the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonetta. Do I have anybody else who wishes to mention anything on this before I bring Councillor Miller back in? Nope, I can't see any other hands. Sue, can you?
No, I can't, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Bonetta hits the nail on the head. There are a variance of different town and parish councils across the district, a varying level of competencies. Referring to Councillor Pook's comment about an information evening, I mean, that's kind of what this committee can kind of do. We are working with officers in this committee. That's what we do. Having a report coming to overview would be a good thing in my view, because that's what we're here for. This committee doesn't have anything else on its agenda at the moment, I don't believe. And I think it's important we have a report that comes to a public committee that members of the public can speak at, because this is a public committee and we are a transparent local authority. I understand. I'd love an information evening as well, as Councillor Pook has mentioned, on understanding the issues. And perhaps things are different in Beer. And referring to Councillor Gazzard's comments, he's a brilliant mayor of Exmouth Town Council. He's a lovely, Councillor Gazzard's a lovely man and a brilliant mayor. And a brilliant chair of the town council. My comment on the town council and parish council, but in Exmouth Town Council's operation of the SIL Section 106 working party, I'm not criticising the town council. It's about the way we operate it. We are the responsible authority, and 85% of SIL payments are the responsibility of East End District Council. And I checked with the officer that the Thomas Close £30,000 that's designated to that is actually East End District Council. Now, the fact that I haven't been made aware of that, it's in the heart of my ward, but it's gone through the town council working party, to me, I'm furious about it. It's not right, because the authority that is legally responsible for distributing funds, the councillors for that authority should be aware of that. Whether they're making the decisions about it is not even, I'm not even discussing that. I'm talking about consultation. And that's why I think a review is necessary, even if we can achieve a little bit in terms of reviewing it, in terms of trying to make it slightly more transparent, involving the ward members more. I think it's worth it. I echo what Councillor Bonetta has said, and especially on Honiton. His experience there, and I just think that we want to get this scoped. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Pook, I see you have your hand raised.
Thank you. I'm not saying we shouldn't review it, but I think some of the problems at the moment is because the process isn't known and isn't widely known and understood, and therefore perhaps the first part of the evening or the debate should be a clear explanation of what S106 is for, and what is in position at the moment to make decisions. And then once we know that, then we can start looking at things need amending. I just didn't want to go straight into starting to look at how we'll do it this way, we'll do that, without actually understanding what it's all for and what we've got in place at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Pook. Councillor Arnott, I see your hand is raised.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wasn't going to speak on this, but and thank you. I'm not on the committee. Thank you for letting me speak. I have to do an upward flick now, as they say. I may disappear. I need to check a date. And where are we? Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a miracle. In which case, I hope this may be of a piece. Just to remind members that a report from SWAP on S106 and SIL was brought to Audit and Governance on the 28th of January 2021, which was extremely helpful. And I would recommend, if you do move forward with this, that perhaps the direction of travel can be influenced by looking back at that report and its intentions as well. It looks to me as if this might be part of the same piece of work, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Moulding, I see your hand waving away.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I agree with Councillor Arnott. We need to look at the report that we had earlier in the year. Our experience at Axminster is probably a little different. We've been able to liaise quite successfully with the Section 106 officer and other planning officers over Section 106 and participatory budgeting over quite a number of years. And that has very much involved the parish council, who have welcomed the opportunity to have their input. So I think it does work, but it needs all members to work together, both the local members, officers, and the parish councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, I see your hand is up. Councillor Miller, I am aware that your hand is up. I will come back to you.
Thank you, Chair. I realise I'm not a member of the committee, but I can only speak of my own personal experience. I'm also a parish councillor for Wimpole, and just over 5 months ago, I was aware that there was some funding available, S106 money available. The officers involved could not have been more helpful. We actually built a pump track, a tarmac covered proper class pump track in our parish field in 4 months from start to finish. And I just think it was excellent. I'm not saying that the system is right. What I'm saying is it works very well. So if we're going to change it, I think we've got to have something that's going to work better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be able to come back to say that I think the officers do an absolutely incredible job when it comes to SIL and Section 106. And this report is not questioning that whatsoever. And I would extend that to the town and parish councils as well, and Councillor Gazzard as well, at Exmouth Town Council. This is about democracy. This is about looking at East Devon District Council ward members' involvement in this. It's very important in my view, and I'll end by saying we are the responsible authority for distributing these funds. You know, just bear that in mind. You know, I'm not suggesting this council gets involved in or gets more involved in a process that is done by another authority. I am suggesting that the ward members are more informed about projects in the ward, and we just review the process, and I think that's an important thing. I think it's important anyway to review most policies, but this is one of the policies of the council the public care most about. You know, it's a significant amount of money that goes to mitigate development in terms of playing fields and in terms of community assets. So it's very important to review it from time to time. And I personally would like to see more of a role for ward members. And it's drawn from my experience and my colleague, Councillor Chapman in Brixington Ward, of times where things have been developed, play parks, and we've had nothing to do with it. And we would have loved to have been involved in terms of consulting our residents and making sure, and cross-party, you know, Councillor Chapman is Conservative, I'm Labour. But we want to work together, and as ward members, that's our role. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Barrow and then Councillor Ledger. Is that correct, Sue?
It is, Chair, it is.
Thank you. Councillor Barrow, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think maybe one of the points that Councillor Miller is making, and I don't know how possible it would be, but really isn't Councillor Miller asking for a report maybe to come out to councillors every, let's say, 6 months or so, saying what money's available in their ward? And it might be direct to us, or it might be one full report that we know as East Devon under SIL or Section 106. So then we have the ability to go to the officers and say, and our residents to say, we've got this money available, and interact more often. It might not be the system, changing the system too much, but unless we go looking for the information, we may not know that this money is about. And I think the first thing that Councillor Miller led was there was some money there, but he didn't know about it. And unless you've been a councillor for that ward for a long, long time, you may never know about it unless there's a report or we know where to find it, the information that is available, because I'm sure Simon, Davey and his team will have that information somewhere. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Barrow. Councillor Ledger.
Thanks very much, Chair. Completely welcome the report. If overview feel that they can bring something to the table and add a bit more policy to it, make some recommendations to strategic planning, fully support that. Just for members' own knowledge, really, you can approach the Section 106 officer at any time. We now have the Execom system fully up to date, so they can pull out the figures in real time on what's due, what's the potential funds are for both Section 106 and SIL funding for each individual wards, and they can do that in the space of a couple of hours. Don't all do it overnight, and please don't all flood in flooding requests tomorrow, but it can be done. We are at the stage now that the swap audit has obviously found its findings. We've then led off with them. We've got a new member of staff in place to help us. The ex-con system's online, fully up to date and working, and I feel like we've really turned a corner in this place. It is just the fact that I think when I sent out an email a few weeks ago regarding training on planning, I think this would have been a great area for members to raise, and it might be an area which I can get either Ed Freeman or the Section 106 officer to do a bit of training for councillors, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions on Section 106 and SIL funding. And little things like if a development takes place in one part of the town, it can only give funds to a certain radius. So I don't know if members are aware of that. There's this certain radius within the town. So if a development takes place in one part of Exmouth, you won't be able to spend it on the other end of town. It just won't work. So there are certain criteria that I think members fail to recognise, and I think training would really help with that. So yeah, fully appreciate it and fully welcome it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Leisure. As an Ottery Town Councillor myself, declaring an interest there, I am aware of how complicated Section 106 and SIL money can be. We've had quite a few issues ourselves. And I actually welcome any kind of training that comes in. I've had numerous meetings myself with the Section 106 team, and they have been phenomenally helpful. But unless you're at the stage when the Section 106 money is first divvied up as to where it's going to be and what it can be spent on, it's very, very complicated. Because Section 106 money, you think, well, that's okay, we can build a play park. And then you find that it can only be used for a football pitch or something of the such. So it's not as easy as you think it is. So that's my own personal thing. Councillor Miller, you've had a few chances to speak. I will let you come back in if you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a proposal really to end this debate, and it's to pick up on what Councillor Lawrence was saying. I think he made some excellent points that actually this will be helped by these 6 monthly reports potentially. I mean, given that Councillor Ledger has just said that he wants strategic, he's happy for Strategic Planning Committee to consider this, which he chairs. I'd like to propose that we refer this issue to Strategic Planning for a report at an upcoming meeting. Would that be a fair request, Chair? Because I just think, I think we've done our job as a scrutiny committee this evening in terms of discussing the issue, and I feel like we can come up with a new policy via a report to the Strategic Planning Committee. If there's a seconder, if there's not, obviously that's fine, but it's just come to mind that we need to move on, obviously, and bring this item to an end.
I'll just point out, Councillor Miller, if you want to do that as a proposal, this is an overview committee. So scrutiny is a completely different thing. Sue, are we allowed to do that? Is that okay?
If you want to make a recommendation to another committee, that would be fine. It'd be helpful, obviously, to have a seconder for that. I think. Is that right, Anita?
Councillor Woodward is.
I'll second it, the proposal.
Yes, as Sue says, it's absolutely fine. Can we just be clear on the wording? What is exactly is the report going to be on? To consider the scoping report, or how do you want to push it forward?
I think it's on the scoping. It's about the policy, and it's a review of the concerns raised within the report. Councillor Lawrence made a brilliant point about the idea of having regular updates to councillors. I think a report to strategic planning is the appropriate way to go, because that's the committee that are ultimately responsible for policy with regards to SIL Section 106. So that will end up going into, that will end up being agreed policy. So everything in the report, I don't think that there's anything in the report that's too complicated to write. You may disagree, Anita, but I think it's just reviewing the current policy and looking at how ward members can be more embedded within the current system. Thank you.
Councillor Woodward, are you still happy to second that proposal with that wording?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. If I can bring that to a vote then, please. Members, green tick for yes, red tick for no, red tick, red cross even. Just making it up as I go along now.
Okay, at the moment I've got 9 votes in favour and 1 against.
Thank you.
10 in favour, Chair.
Thank you. Okie dokes. Item 2, review of the members' allowances. As you will see, the monitoring officer has no comment to make since this has been raised at other meetings. So do I have anybody that wishes to speak on this? So can I now invite members to raise their electronic hands if they wish to comment briefly, and I mean briefly, on this item? Councillor Arnott, you need to give yourself whiplash then, putting your hand up so fast.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I know you know I'm quite an athlete, even sitting down. Well, now I have mixed feelings on this. It's none of my business, of course. I'm not on this committee, but there is no doubt that the allowances paid to our councillors are lower than nearly everybody else in our county, and there are many issues around that. But because, to be very frank with you, Chair, I can imagine the headlines tomorrow. I do have to make it very clear that whilst it may be an idea to have an external review of this, which is absolutely within the rights of the council, I cannot personally imagine a position where our allowances are going to go up in the foreseeable future, given the financial position of this council. And I do have to say that I'm just going to be realistic there. It is very hard to imagine, even if a review is commissioned and it comes back recommending increased allowances, which I suspect it would be very hard in the current financial position for this council to justify implementing that report. No reason not to do the report in my mind, but I need to make that clear before a press release is issued tomorrow by one of Councillor Moulding's friends suggesting, councillors looking to boost wages at time of cutbacks. But on my administration isn't looking to do that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Councillor Loudon, I believe you are second to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I hadn't appreciated quite how dark my camera was. Hang on a sec. That's probably better. It would be inappropriate for me to sit in the dark. I have an element of sympathy with the proposition that Councillor Miller has set out here. But equally, I have to also caution in the same way as Councillor Arnott. You may shake your head at what I say, Councillor, but it is my view. And I think at this difficult time, and it is difficult times for us here at this council, I think, as Councillor Arnott said, I think it would not be taken well by our residents if we decided to invite the remuneration panel to meet. And as Councillor Arnott said, it's likely to come up with one recommendation. And whilst I would have every sympathy with that, I don't think now is the time to do it. So I would hope that the committee would understand that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I just remind members at this moment that just because we can't hear you, we can see you, and I do expect people to treat each other with respect. Thank you. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Chair. It's a question, really. I think I heard at the beginning of this section, this debate, that this had already been considered by other committees or persons. And could somebody enlighten me on what has already been taken place, whether there's already been some discussion on this by other committees? Perhaps our leader might know that answer.
No, search me, Tony. Somebody else may have to answer that one, sorry.
Okay. Maybe I misheard then. I thought somebody said we'd already covered it elsewhere. No. Okay, I'll shut up and keep quiet then.
Thank you, Councillor Woodward, I think. Councillor Gazard.
Thank you, Chair. I've got every sympathy with. Sorry, am I off mute?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I've got every I've got every sympathy for this proposal, Chair. But I really do think that the ordinary person in the street is suffering a lot more than what we are as councillors at this moment in time. And I think the leader and our colleague are absolutely right. We'll get torn to shreds by the press. If and you're absolutely right, a review will come back and say that councillors' allowances should go up, because I can remember before, in the last administration, we were promised that there would be a meeting of all group leaders to review the situation in order to try and attract more younger people into local politics. That never came about. But I just think that the timing is wrong at this moment in time. But that is just my personal opinion, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazard. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. All councils are going through difficult times at the moment. It's not just us, it's other councils across the country. And other councils, most other councils across the country, what they do is they take members' allowances out of the political sphere, which we've not done yet. What they do is I'm only calling for a modest increase, by the way. And I don't think that's going to be very much a year. And I think that assistant portfolio holders that have been appointed to assist cabinet members, like everywhere else in the country, should get a small allowance. We're talking about £20,000, £30,000 a year. And I understand what residents are going through. But as councillors, we are there to support the residents. And as councillors, we are there, if we're doing our jobs properly, we are giving up 1, 2, 3 days a week, especially if we're workers, to support our residents. I cannot understand why this council does not want to review it. Just to review it. It's not to accept it, or that will go to full council. The fact that there's been a suggestion that we don't review it at all, I just find that ridiculous. And I think we do have to increase the diversity of people serving on this council. Councillors tend to be of a certain age. They tend to be businessmen, farmers, and it's very male as well. And I think we've got to increase the diversity of councillors. And we think about the cost, and you're saying the press will tear us to shreds. That's not going to happen, because the county council are increasing their allowances every year. All the other district councils, nearly all the other district councils in Devon, are increasing their allowances. This perceived fear that this is going to cause some kind of negative headline for the council is misplaced to the extreme. This is going to allow younger people like myself and other people, women, we don't have enough women on the council, people from all backgrounds to be able to stand and commit to the role. I'm disappointed with Councillor Loudon's comments. I'm disappointed with the leader's comments. I thought they'd have more support for the younger councillors on this council. I understand their concerns. I understand the fact that they think that it might not look good. I take a different view. I think residents would want us to commit more time to our roles. And I'm sorry, but I continue and retain my view that I don't believe that we would get any negative press for a modest allowance. And can I just also finally say, our allowances haven't risen for 11 years. So this suggestion, I think it came from the leader, that this has been considered by other committees is complete nonsense. We haven't even considered, sorry, Paul, it wasn't you, but somebody suggested that there've been other committees that have considered this. It hasn't been. 11 years. I think it's time for us to review it. And then if we agree a modest increase, we can then tie it to inflation, and then we never have to have a review ever again, which other councils don't. So I think my proposal stands as a good thing to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Arnott, as you were named in that, I will allow you a brief comeback.
Yeah, it will be brief, Chair. Thank you. And as he knows, I have a lot of sympathy with what Councillor Miller has said and the arguments that underpin it. I think we must, unfortunately, look at the hard political, financial reality of this council now. In the next few, well, as you know, Chair, in the next week, we are going to have to be looking at some really hard choices around public toilets. After that, we're going to have to be looking at some really hard choices around car parks as well. It'll be clear in the next few months that although this is a spectacularly well-run council in financial terms, that our medium-term financial plan is going to require some form of cutbacks. I mean, that is the reality, and we have to find ways of doing it. And that's the point I'm making. Not that, and by the way, if I were on the committee, for what it's worth, I would suggest that it should be reviewed, that a review process would be very useful in case, we win the lottery in 2 years' time and we've suddenly got an extra few million in the bank. That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. But I do need to make it clear that at the moment, it would be very hard politically to justify increasing our allowances in the next year. That's my view. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. If I can just remind everybody that it's brief comments on these. Okay, Councillor Bonetta.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to speak very briefly on this. I welcome all the comments made so far. And I come into this debate as one of the people that Councillor Miller is talking about. I'm 19 years old and I've been elected midterm into this council. I do sympathise with many of the comments made. However, I think there is a distinction that needs to be made here. This is two issues mixed into one. Yes, there's the financial side of it. However, we have also got the inclusivity and diversity side of it. There is a reason why 61% of why the average age of councillors in the Southwest is 61 and only 10% of councillors are under the age of 45 in the UK. It's because people are working full time and they can't afford to be councillors. Yes, there is a difficult decision that would need to be made about finances. However, I don't think there's anything harming us doing a review. And to be frank, I think that having that ability to be more inclusive, especially prior to the new election cycle that we're going to be having in 18 months' time, I think that would be really important in encouraging a new generation of faces to come along and stand for elections. It is not surprising that I'm the only person of my sort of age group on this council. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe it's Councillor Pook next on my list.
Thank you, and I'd like to sort of support what Councillor Bonetta is saying actually, but what I'm really thinking to say is what we should be looking at is how we can make our council more diverse and more accessible, and that isn't. I don't think that's purely money. It's what councillors do. What impact councillors have, because there's the thought that what impact am I going to do? How will my part change things? So I think we want to look at what councillors do, the timings of meetings, the way they interact. And if we can understand, and if we can actually then find out why people aren't standing as councillors, if it is purely money, or if it's the timing, or the fact that they feel they haven't got any input, then those are the sorts of things we should be addressing. I'm not saying finance isn't going to be an element of it, but I wouldn't want to just say we'll put the allowances up and that's going to solve the problems. To get more younger people in, they've got to feel they've got the time, but also their time is serving a worthy purpose and actually achieving something. So I think it's a much wider debate than just looking at allowances. I'd support a wider debate which looks at how councillors can input in different ways and how we could maybe change things to make it easier and more diverse for them.
Thank you, Councillor Pook. I've got Councillor Ranger and then Councillor Rylance in my order. Does that match yours, Stu?
Yes, it does, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ranger, please.
so I've got a mask on.
That's okay.
I would support a review of councillors' allowances. I'd also like to point out that for the year 2017 to 2020, in councillors' travelling allowances, £9,000.
Sorry, Councillor Ranger, we lost you briefly then. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes. And 2020, councillors' travelling allowances and subsistence.
No, we've lost you again, Val, I'm afraid. Maybe if you turn the screen off and we could just hear you possibly, maybe that would work.
Trying again.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sorry, right. Third time lucky. So between the year 2017 and 2020, councillors' travelling allowances and subsistence came to.
We're destined not to hear those figures.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, if you know, if this government changed us to Zoom.
We keep losing you, Val. The gist I think that we're getting is that the travelling allowance is quite high, but if we swap to Zoom, then we wouldn't have the travelling allowance issue. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. Yes, it is what I'm trying to say. And because on average it's 23,000 a year, which you know, which would go a good way towards you know, mitigating that rise. So I hope you can hear that bit. So I think we should review the allowances, but not increase the allowances at this moment in time. I think in the meantime, we need to lobby for modern.
We lost you at the end there, Val. Are you saying we need to lobby to modernise council meetings and stay on virtual?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
No problem. Is it all right for me to fill that bit in there, Anita? It looks like I'm just putting words in Val's mouth, but I'm assuming that's what she means.
She's got a thumb up, so I think that's a yes.
Yeah. I don't want someone in due course turning around saying that I'm saying things that aren't what Val was saying. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Ranger. Councillor Rylance.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to. I don't have any opinion at the moment about the allowances. I do think it's possibly not the best time economically to be talking about allowances. But I just wanted to provide a testimonial, really, as possibly one of the people on the council with the youngest children. I say one of, because I know that at least one of the councillors got much younger children than me. But I have been a councillor since my daughter was still in primary school. So this morning I started off making 3 hours of phone calls for council, and then I did a day's work, and I'm extremely lucky that I can actually arrange my day's work around my council work. And I understand that is definitely not the case for a lot of people who have, you know, what you might call standard jobs with standard hours. And then I went to a parents' evening, and I had to give slightly late apologies just in case I couldn't make it back to this meeting. And I came back, slid under the door, came into this meeting, went because I'm not on the actual committee, went off camera and warmed my daughter's supper up that I'd made earlier while I was in the middle of my day's work. And since then, I've been trying to oversee homework and take part in this, well, listen into this meeting at the same time. And I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we all have different lives and different pressures in our lives. But I think one of the biggest problems is that the sheer volume of meetings that we're having to attend, I don't know whether it's particularly at the moment, but just in general, really, it would make it very, very difficult for somebody with a quote unquote normal job to be able to do this. A lot of people think it's, you know, we just get elected and then do nothing, but actually I can assure you it's very much not the case. You know, most of us are probably doing 25 to 30 hours a week for council, and I know that's the case for me. So it's not, you know, when you apply to be a councillor, people say, oh, it shouldn't cost you any money. Well, the actual fact of the matter is, it may not cost you any money, but it's all the hours that you cannot actually do your work, which end up costing you the money. And that is something that is probably not going to go away as the average age of retirement rises, because if you're lucky enough to have a good retirement pension, then you probably don't really need the extra income from your council allowance. But if you're still in the process of building up your pension, which a lot of us under, well, 55 definitely are, and probably people who are older than me even. So what I'm trying to say is people still need to make an income. They still need to pay the bills. They still need to have be relatively present for their children, and they still need to be building up their pension fund. So it is going to be a lot of pressures for people who are younger than 55. Let's put it that way. And I do think this is something that in time is going to evolve as people's age of retirement goes up and up and up, because people will have to carry on working. They won't have any choice. So we are going to, in time, have to reconsider this role and how it can be fitted in and how it can be coexist with a paid job. And that's probably all I'll say, except that I do completely understand that this is not the best time to even be talking about allowances when we're in the middle of everything that's happening. So I think we should be talking about it, but probably not right now, is my point.
Thank you, Councillor Rylance. Councillor Miller, I will come back to you shortly, as this is your motion. Councillor Arnott, you have already spoken, but I will allow you another 2 minutes.
Oh, it's 30 seconds, Chair, and it's not for me, it's for Val, actually, for Councillor Ranger. I've just found she had WhatsApped me a few days ago. This fills in, I think, the stuff we lost. And the WhatsApp said, I just totted up councillors' travel and subsistence expenses 2017 to 2020, and it equalled £89,449.83. And she then went on to write expenses claimed year ending 2021, £1,077.59. So I think those were the figures she was trying to read to us that we might have got lost. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott.
Chair, if I may, I think Val's put that, Councillor Ranger's put that in just in the chat as well with some figures. It's just worth members having a look. I know we don't usually use the chat, but
perfect.
it is there.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councillor Miller, I will come back to you briefly.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Ranger makes some amazing points in the sense that even going forward, I think that we will save money in terms of travel in consultative meetings. But to sum up, I'm not calling for raising member allowances in this meeting. That's not what this debate is about. It's about looking for or proposing a review. So I hope that members of the committee will agree to that, and we'll look at what and it's an independent review by a remuneration panel, as all councils in England have to go through. And then from that, I think we should consider whatever comes out of that afterwards. I feel this debate has been coloured by what might happen, whereas this scoping form is just about having the review. So I hope my colleagues will support having a review. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I see no more hands up. So my understanding is that we are just looking to see about getting the members' allowance reviewed. We are not voting this evening on putting the members' allowances up. We will not get lynched in the news tomorrow because we're putting the members' allowances up, because that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is reviewing it. Could come back with a review that we're not worth the money in the first place. So we never know, do we? That's the whole point of a review. So if I can ask people, please, and if I can invite members to confirm their support for putting this onto a future agenda, okay, by a vote. Green ticks if you're in favour and a red cross if you are not. Remember again, we are only looking at reviewing the allowance, not putting it up.
Okay, Chair, I've got 9 members voting in favour and 2 against.
Thank you, sir. Excellent. And we'll just make sure that we reiterate to anybody that asks exactly what I've just stated. We're just looking to review it. A review doesn't mean you're going to actually do it. You know, the review could come back and say, yes, it needs to go up by blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean we're actually going to do that. Thank you. Item number 3, a public register of senior officer interests. Now, remember, we had an item read out earlier with reference to this. Okay. an email read out earlier. So just to let you know, Councillor Miller, we did have that read out earlier, okay? Please note the comments of the monitoring officer on this item, that all officers complete a register of interest that is held by the council, but that is not a requirement for it to be publicly available. The advice given to us is that members should consider this carefully, and that it would be more appropriately be a matter for the Standards Committee and or Personnel Committee to be involved in, should you decide to proceed. So can I now invite members to raise their electronic hands if they wish to comment briefly on this item? I will allow Councillor Miller to put forward what he wishes to say. You have a couple of minutes, Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Chair. I apologise for the 3 items this evening, and it's not because I've rushed them in. We haven't had an overview committee meeting for a long time. On this issue, many councils have these public registers of senior officer interests. We know that these days senior officers have delegated authority for much, significant amounts of money. What I want to make clear, by the way, is that this is not an anti-officer recommendation at all. I respect all of the officers of this council. I think it's about reassuring the public and ensuring that the public know, as I know, that our officers are beyond reproach in terms of criticism. They are brilliant and they help us as a council. I think it's important to have it for public confidence. As I say, many other councils have it, and it's something that I think should be referred, by the way, through the Personnel Committee. Henry, the monitoring officer, mentioned that it should be, there needs to be consultation with trade unions if this was to go ahead. I totally agree with that. I also think it should go through the Standards Committee as well, and they should be consulted. But ultimately, I think this is a sound recommendation for us to look at, as so many other councils do this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I see Councillor Ingham's hand is up.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I support this. My criticism of this idea would be that I think it should be extended to certainly all planning officers where there is ample opportunity for people outside of the authority to attempt to affect decisions made by this council. And I don't think I need to expand on it at this stage. It's just, you all know what I mean. And we all think that sort of thing's inappropriate. And what we expect of our councillors, we should also expect of our officers. And that's why. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ingham. Do I have, Councillor Gazzard, your hand has just popped up.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. Yes, I support this, Chair.
Thank you. Any other hands before I go back to Councillor Miller? No, over to you, Councillor Miller.
Well, thank you very sorry, I think Councillor Loudon's just put his hand up. Sorry, Chair.
That's okay. Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Loudon.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I wasn't quick enough with my digits there. I'm not quite clear from what Councillor Miller's said, and just reading his proposition again, what's driving this. I do wonder, though, whether, as the monitoring officer is saying here, that there should be some reference to the Personnel Committee, because this is likely to have an impact upon their terms and conditions. I'm sorry, Councillor Miller, I know you don't agree with what I'm saying, but I think the monitoring officer has pointed you in the direction potentially of the Personnel Committee, and I think given that this is a staffing matter, albeit senior staffing matter possibly, it still is a staffing matter. So I would have thought that at least they have the Personnel Committee has some kind of locus in this issue if you decide to take it forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. I think, please correct me if I'm wrong, so it was Councillor Moulding next. I will come back to you, Councillor Miller, at the end, okay?
Yes, it was. Councillor Moulding and Councillor Pook.
Thank you.
Yes, Chair, I would agree very much with Councillor Loudon that this matter should be for the Personnel Committee and not the Overview Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Pook.
And again, I agree with that because we're talking about the paid staff as opposed to the elected council staff, and I think it's a different situation. There's nothing, not saying that interest shouldn't be known so that it can go through standards, and necessarily it's not necessarily to be a public one. I think it's because they're paid staff as opposed to officers, as opposed to councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Pook. Any other hands before I go back to Councillor Miller? Councillor Miller, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, I don't disagree with Councillor Loudon. Perhaps he wasn't listening to me when I was actually stating quite clearly that I think it should be referred to the Personnel Committee. So disappointing that wasn't noted. On the point he made and others made about, he made about what's driving this, I think Councillor Ingham summed it up. And actually, this has actually been inspired by what Councillor Ingham said in a standards working group meeting. And I want to thank him for bringing it up. And it is something that, as I say, other councils do. It's not as though this council would be kind of creating a system that doesn't exist elsewhere. And I will add that we already have an internal register of officer interests for all officers of the council. The only change I'm suggesting, and I believe it should go through Personnel Committee, because I think it needs to go through the trade union unison. But we already have it internally. All we need to do is make that public for senior officers. That won't cost too much money. It would be a very simple change. So it's just a suggestion. There's no malice in what I'm suggesting or ill will. It's about making this council set the gold standard for transparency in public life and to reassure the public that our officers are the very best, which I believe they are, and councillors as well. So, I just wanted to say that there's no ill will behind this motion whatsoever. And I think, please, this committee, I think, as Henry has said in his report, let's refer it to personnel. That's what I'd like to see. And and I think it'd be great to approve this this motion. It'd be a very simple change and it reassure the public. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. So instead of having this item on a future agenda for overview, are you now saying that you would like it to go to the Personnel Committee?
Yeah, as long as it's referred and there's a report that comes and personnel can consider it, I'm very happy with that. Thank you.
Okay, so do I need a seconder for that, Anita? If it's going across to, okay, can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Bonetta. Gosh, quick on those buttons. Excellent. Okay, so just for clarity, what we're suggesting is that we are going to ask the Personnel Committee to look into this and review this situation. Okay, just so that all the members know what they're voting for. Do you need specific wording for that, Anita, or are you happy with that?
I think that's probably clear.
Thank you. With that. Excellent. So can I now invite members to confirm their support for putting this to the Personnel Committee by a vote? Green ticks if you're in favour and a red cross if you are not.
Okay, Chair, I have 10 votes in favour and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, so that brings our meeting to an end. Oh, no, I do apologise. Before everybody runs away, Councillor Ledger, I did say at the very beginning of this meeting that I know that you had something you wanted to bring up from the forward plan, and I would allow you to mention it. I do apologise. Councillor Ledger.
Thanks very much, Chair. I don't know if members can remember, but back last year in February, Overview looked at a policy for drones. It was brought by Tim Childs. There was then a motion that came to council in the February that included the the banning of any fireworks over 90 decibels on any East Devon District Council land, and the release of any Chinese lanterns. It came to the March cabinet, and it was said that this would be referred back to overview. Then we had obviously COVID, we had the lockdown, and it doesn't seem to have ever came back onto the overview's radar. So I just want to raise that needs to be fully scoped by overview again, as a direction back from cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger. Councillor Miller, your hand's gone up.
Yeah, just following on from Councillor Ledger, who contacted me about this as well. And from a personal perspective, I've had, as I think many councillors have had, correspondence from local residents with regard to the RSPCA's campaign regarding silent fireworks. So it's an issue which is of a major concern to residents, and therefore I agree with Councillor Ledger, and I just wanted to make sure, given that I'm a member of this committee, that we can get this on either the next agenda or a future one. I also understand, thanks to the Chief Executive, Mark Williams, that we have a response to the letter that went out to the Minister that was that was a result of the motion. So, and that was circulated to all councillors, as councillors will be aware. So I do think we should have a report. And I just wanted to make sure that, Chair, that this can be as soon as possible, and that's recorded in the minutes from a member of the committee. And it hopefully can be the next meeting, if not the one afterwards. But we don't meet that often. We don't meet monthly. So I just wanted to make sure that this is going to come up soon, because it is an area of concern for people, especially with animals and pets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. And just to state on the end of that as well, that lots of veterans have problems with fireworks as well. Anita, did you want to say something? You looked on the verge of saying something.
Was it that obvious? That's fine. You could choose, Chair, to bring that back to be scoped for I'd suggest the next possible meeting. I'm just a bit conscious that given that Tim is actually still emailing me reports for other agendas right now, I suspect we just need to give people a little bit of time, but perhaps bring back a scoping report to the next available agenda. Because I have a feeling this got, if I remember this rightly, this got a little bit bogged down about being cross-service, that Tim had a quite robust drone policy, and then it transpired that countryside street scene, can't remember, somebody else had, Dan's going to say it, somebody else had the fireworks and lanterns and things like that.
Yeah, I remember it. Dan?
Yeah,
Sorry,
they tried it. I think the insinuation from council was that they tried to annex it into the back of Tim's very good drone policy, and it just didn't work. So I think cabinets, the previous administration, and their instruction at the time was to bring it back to overview for full scoping, because it was a different service and it didn't belong in the policy that they were trying to pigeonhole it into.
Thank you.
So yeah, bring it. You can, if you've got a proposal in a second, to bring that back for a scoping report. As I say, I'd go for the next available committee, just to give officers a bit of time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Arnott, you're wafting your hand about.
Yes, thank you, Chair. How kind. I don't know if this is a helpful suggestion at all, but given the amount of time that has passed, and the circumstances which were essentially to do with the end of one administration and then COVID and so forth. So a lot of time has passed, and it's unfortunate. Without that, we would have had all this in place for this fireworks night, wouldn't we? But if it's of any help, and under advice from officers, if you're minded to bring the next report straight to cabinet, if you wish, if that cuts down a couple of months of further delay. But I don't know if that's possible for you. But obviously, we'd be very pleased to welcome the report directly, if that's useful.
You're trying to pinch the stuff from our agenda, Councillor Arnott.
I can find some more for you if you like.
No, I'm good, thanks. Anita, what do you think?
You can make a recommendation as a committee, either straight to cabinet or straight to council, but cabinet would be more appropriate in this case. You just perhaps want to be clear about what exactly you want that report to say, which is what we would usually scope. But if members are content to find a form of words, it may be that it's as straightforward as looking back to what did happen at the point where the world stopped turning or sped up or whatever happened, and picking it up. So perhaps a form of words that say that the overview will recommend that a report is taken to Cabinet dealing with the issues raised previously relating to drones. What were the others? Drones, fireworks over.
I think the drones policy was sorted. It's fireworks.
Chinese lanterns.
Ban on fireworks over 90 decibels off East Devon land, and the total ban of the release of Chinese lanterns.
Mm-hmm. Was it, did we get bogged into over or from East Devon land? I think I seem to remember it got bogged up, but yes, you can recommend that. You can recommend that to council. To Cabinet. My slight concern is that you will then perhaps lose the ability to shape what that report looks like. Whereas if you bring it back as a scoping report, you will have maybe more opportunity to have some debate that members have had a chance to be a bit more informed about. But whichever, you could do it either way.
Okay, so if we have a brief vote now from overview committee members on whether or not they would like it to be scoped and come back to overview, please put a green tick. So the choices are coming back to overview or going straight to Cabinet. So if I can have, oh, she said, finding my buttons. Councillor Miller, are you there? Oh.
Okay, Chair, I'm only seeing 5 votes at the moment, so you might want to clarify that people know what they're voting for. You gave them 2 options, so
okay, so yeah, we're voting on it being scoped and coming back to overview. That's what we're voting on now. So a green tick for yes if you wish the fireworks, Chinese lantern policy, etc., to come back to overview. A green tick, please.
Okay, at the moment I'm seeing 7, 8 votes in favour.
I think Councillor Ingham has left the building, as it were.
I'm not seeing it.
Looks like that's carried in. If you were taking that as an actual vote rather than a sort of indicative show of hands, that would look like a wish for it to come back to overview rather than jumping straight to Cabinet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I presume now, Anita, I need the wording for exactly what we're going to be scoping.
After the vote. Yeah, so we'll that officers will bring back a scoping report, picking up the issues previously discussed, because we can go back and look at them relating to fireworks, Chinese lanterns and associated similar issues. And then perhaps if members have some comments they want to make, they could pass those over to maybe Councillor Ledger might want to be a point of contact. If people have got,
he's saying no.
Okay, to Democratic, and they can then feed that through. So yeah, bring back a scoping report relating to fireworks over 90 decibels, lanterns, release of Chinese lanterns, and associated items. To come back to the next available overview meeting.
Councillor Ledger now wants to put his 5 pennies worth in. Go on, Councillor Ledger.
Well, it was originally a motion from Councillor Mike Allen and seconded by Councillor David Key, so they might be wishing to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to stay well out of this.
It'll be minuted, so perhaps members may want to just bring it to the attention of colleagues who aren't here, so that they can give some input to Democratic Services if they wish.
Yeah, that's fine. Does anybody have any further comments to make on this particular motion? Okay, do you need a vote on that then, Anita? Or are you happy with?
Shall we do it again just for completeness?
Just for clarification.
Since we've done the wording, we've done the wording afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
just for clarification.
So green ticks in favour of bringing this back via a scoping report to overview.
Thank you.
Okay, Chair, I'm seeing 8 votes in favour again.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, just checking. Right, that brings our meeting to an end, and I would like to thank everyone, including members of the public, for their attendance. Members, can I remind you that until the Democratic Service team confirm that the live streaming recording has stopped, you can still be seen and heard, and any comments may be recorded.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.